leading to other types of tightening. You knew this was going to happen. Races always tighten. Now, we have a very busy day on the show today. Jason doesn't even know this unless he's been a good boy and has been listening to the radio. Have you been a good boy and you're listening to the radio? We have guests all over the place. We've got Reed Ribble coming up in about 8 seconds here. We've got Ron Johnson at 9:06. Scott Walker at 9:36. All on the phone. But a busy, busy, busy day because there is news in all of those races. So all sorts of stuff going on. And we are going to start with the 8th Congressional District. Well, everyone has been waiting for a public poll on this race, and The Hill, as in Capitol Hill, The Hill magazine yesterday released polls in congressional House races in Mississippi, Arizona, Wisconsin, Illinois, Pennsylvania, and the race that they focused on in Wisconsin was the 8th Congressional District, which showed Reed Ribble, and we posted this to the Bader blog at WTAQ.com or JerryBaderShow.com. Reed Ribble with 45%, Steve Kagan with 44%. Now, there are a number of other things, results, findings that we'll get to in just a moment. First, let's say good morning to 8th Congressional Republican candidate, Reed Ribble. Good morning, Reed.
Hey, Jerry. Good morning. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Good to talk to you again. All right. Now, I got to tell you, when I posted this on the blog, a lot of people were surprised. I think a lot of conservatives were confident that you were, quite frankly, leading by more than that. I know what the candidate's line always is, well, we don't pay attention to the polls. I'm going to ask you anyway. I'm going to ask you anyway, Reed, your reaction to that poll.
Well, it's not all that surprising to me. We've been watching the polling for quite a while. We do our own polling, obviously. And we knew the race was going to get tight. The unions have spent over $1 million to smear me. So it's not uncommon that races get tight as you get closer to the election. And to be honest with you, we're not surprised that we're in a dogfight here.
You mentioned the smear. I'll tell you what, you are getting killed. I mean, they are the attack. It's vicious. It is absolutely vicious. And I want to take them one at a time. Here is a number that jumped out to me. Ribble is winning younger and middle-aged voters, while Kagan does well among older voters. Congressman Steve, let's start with Kagan. I remember the day after the primary, you said something to me, Reed. You said, well, the congressman doesn't have a history of himself attacking his opponent. He leaves it to third-party groups. Apparently, he was a little more desperate than we thought, Reed, because he's come after you.
He has. He kind of turned the tide. It was interesting because back in June, I saw him in Shawano on a farm, and he said, he looked me right in the eye, shook my hand, and said, I will never go negative on you. I can't promise what the party's going to do or outside expenditures are going to do, but I would never do that. And, well, we've seen that. It's been a pretty malicious attack, to be honest with you, a pretty dishonest attack, as you're aware, and you've seen some of the reports on it.
Mm-hmm.
I can't really control what he says, but it obviously had an effect with seniors because they believe the lie that I want to take away Social Security, which is just ridiculous. I mean, I've never said that. I have said consistently for over 14 months that we've made a promise. We, being the American people through this government, made a promise to our seniors and to those in retirement, and they've lived their lives and based their lives and planned their lives on that promise, and we have to keep it. I've been adamant about that, but you know what? We're also making a promise to my 4-year-old grandson, and I want to make sure that something's there for him as well. And I've been an open book on Social Security, saying that the only thing I won't accept is the status quo. Let's look at the options. Let's get grown-ups in the room. Let's stop demagoguing it, stop politicizing it, stop using senior care scare, and let's actually talk about the problem. And then we can begin to fix it. We can't fix it with all of this type of hate messaging going on, both by the unions and by the congressmen. That doesn't get anything done for the American people.
Here's the problem, though, that, as you pointed out, that demagoguery seems to be working. He is leading among senior. Yeah. So what do? How do you fight it back?
Well, we try to answer it. We put our own ad up, and quite frankly, Jerry, a lot of this is coming from the independent expenditure groups. They're out there pounding me with over $1 million in this race. They've spent more money money than the congressman and I combined. And so it's not possible to get out with enough of a message. And quite frankly, I was so far ahead after the primary. We had a double-digit lead that a lot of the conservative groups kind of took a buy-in on this race because they said, okay, Ribble's got this in the bag. Let's focus our attention on races where we think we might be able to swing them since this one's taken care of. And well, what they found out is that it wasn't taken care of. This is going to be a horse race right to the end.
Here's what's important about that, and I had heard what internal polling was showing, which is why I was surprised by yesterday. That same, and I'll call it complacency in terms of the National Party, that same complacency, here's what I think the message that has to be preached between now and November 2nd is, stop listening to this enthusiasm gap. Enthusiasm doesn't mean anything if you don't get your butt out to the poll. This is where it becomes up to the voter.
Yeah, I agree 100%. We're going to find out whether there's an enthusiasm gap or not, or how enthusiastic conservatives are based on how they get out to the poll. But I will tell you this, we have a very energetic volunteer group. These folks are fired up. They're in every section of the district. We're making phone calls, going to door, talking to people, and everybody's working really hard. Our campaign's perspective, the one thing there's actually two things that we believe we can control. We can control what we say, we can control our own conduct, and then we can control how hard we work. And those are the two things that we're going to rely on. We're going to hold ourselves to the level of honesty and integrity in this race, and then we're going to work as hard as we possibly can, not leaving anything on the table.
Talking with 8th CD candidate Reed Ribble, there's another area in which you're getting attacked, and it's the ads that say Reed Ribble, whatever they say, 23% or whatever, tax increase on the middle class. I'm going to be honest, Reed, I don't even know what it is they're distorting there. I don't.
What they're saying is that during the course of the campaign, and even on my website, I talk about the tax code in this country being 70,000 pages long, and that it's a train wreck. It's confusing and it's a mess that needs to be fixed, and that my personal preference is to move to a flatter tax system. I also talked a bit about the fair taxes, one of the potential ideas to consider. So right away they take the consumption tax idea and say Ribble wants a 25 or 23% consumption tax. Well, they never tell the whole story, but they're never very good at telling the whole story. It's a complete distortion, which has been all of their ads, and just one distortion after another.
Yeah, and you mentioned, you said the union's going after you. That's a lot of the attack that you're seeing right now. And correct me if I'm wrong, this actually AFSCME, is it not?
Yeah, it is. It's interesting that the state, county, and municipal workers are so concerned about a federal candidate, isn't it? Yeah. I think people have to start putting two and two together why they would be afraid of me.
Down the stretch, we're inside of 2 weeks now, Reed. You said you're going to control the things that you can control, what you say and what you do, and the activity. Now that there is a poll out that has basically a dead heat, this is going to energize the other side. It's going to be a rallying cry for them. I would expect the intensity of the things said against you to grow between now and November 2nd, and then you're really going to have to be at the top of your game.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that, Jerry. I think that they're going to be a little bit energized about it. But I think if there were conservatives or Republicans that had gotten complacent, this will also energize them. It's not a one-way street; it's a two-way street. It's going to happen on both sides. It may be a little bit of that kick in the pants that every campaign needs to make sure that you don't rest on laurels or just assume it's going to go your way because of the winds of history. And this is where conservatives and Republicans got to step up. They've got to help get out there and work, get out the vote, get on the phone, make contributions to my campaign so I can answer these malicious claims. And then I'm just appealing to voters to measure. Who do you think is the more reasoned and reasonable person to send to Washington? Who do you think has comported themselves in a way that represents Northeast Wisconsin values better? Me or the congressman? And the voters will make a choice.
Talking with Reed Ribble, 42% of the voters said President Obama had brought change to Washington for the worse. Only 27% said the president brought change for the better. 31% think nothing has changed in a district Barack Obama won. How do you think that plays into this race?
Well, yeah, I think it's going to play, and it in fact is playing. You know, the president campaigned 2 years ago on the whole concept of change. What Americans really wanted was Washington to change. What they didn't want is for America to change. And they're now concerned that America's changing, not in a way that's positive, but in a way that's negative. I'm not surprised that I'm doing well with younger people. Quite frankly, I've had a number of conversations with college age to age 35 groups, and the message I'm giving them is, listen, folks, there's a reckoning coming. And that reckoning is going to be carried on your shoulders and in your pocketbook. Because we have a generation of politicians in Washington that are basically borrowing against your future. And they're expecting you to pay it back.
I'm glad you brought that up because the perception is, Russ Feingold is trying to get the youth vote out. He thinks that's how he's going to get reelected. That goes against stereotype a little bit, doesn't it? That the Democrats actually doing better with the older demographic, and you're doing better with the younger.
Yeah, it's in part because of the amount of money that the unions have spent and the Congress has spent to scare seniors. It's been really unfortunate to take advantage of folks who mostly get their news from television. Young people are getting their news from the internet and from other places, so it's easier to reach them, quite frankly. And so, yeah, it's a bit counterintuitive that this is going on this way. But I think we can close the senior gap. I really do. It's just a matter of making sure that I get out and get my message clearly, show the cases where things aren't true, help people to reason through it themselves, and we'll get some of those seniors back for sure.
Well, listen, Reed, thanks for joining us. No Democrat has ever taken this seat 3 elections in a row. No reason to change that now, sir.
That's not going to happen, Jared. We're going to work hard. I appreciate so much you having me on the show this morning. Thanks a lot.
Reed, thanks a lot. Reed Ribble, Republican candidate for the 8th Congressional District.